Hey guys, right now I'll just be going over the basic fundamentals of how to use Unreal Engine and how to open it. So what you'll need to do is once you've downloaded the Epic Games Launcher, you'll double click on it. It'll bring you to the News tab. What you need to do is go to the library, and once you've installed your new version, you make sure it's 5.2.1. You press launch, and what you could do too is set it as the current engine if you have multiple versions installed, so that this is the automatic version that is installed. You'll probably have a logo as well, like a shortcut on your desktop, and you can just click on that from there. This is a little bit different, don't pay attention to that, but it'll have the same symbol and it'll say Unreal Editor. And you'll click on that and it should hopefully do 5.2.1 if it's your current. So once you launch it, it'll take a sec. Usually if it's a brand new project, it'll say downloading shaders. It'll take a couple minutes. So what you want to do, you'll be brought to the recent projects tab. You want to go to games, and then since we're making a new game, you guys won't have to do this, but I would encourage that you guys just try creating a new game so that you know how to make a new game. In this case, we'll do first person, but when we're actually creating a game, we'll start from a blank project, which has absolutely nothing in it. There's zero things in it besides the actual engine, which is what we need. Whereas if you click on first person, third person, top down, etc., it'll give you a pack and all the basic fundamentals of a first person game, a third person game, etc. So we'll click on the first person in this case. Down here is where you name your project. So right now we'll just name this project test because this is a test. Make sure that this is set to blueprint. Blueprints are the same thing as C++, which is a coding language. Blueprints is also coding. It is just as advanced as C++. People would probably call it block code, but that's not really what it's called. It's called visual scripting. And it can do everything that C++ can do. It is not the basics. It is not what you're doing in Robotics Club if any of you guys are doing that, like Daniel. It's not the same thing. It's different. It's more advanced. It's just as advanced as written code. It's just visual. So yeah, we'll name it test. Make sure it's in the right location, and we'll create it. Then it'll take a sec. Sometimes it does, maybe it doesn't. Oh, this one won't because it already has a package. So once you load in, this is your map that it has just loaded in. This is your map that you can actually move around in. So if you want to move around, like I am right now, if you have a mouse connected, which I would highly recommend you do have, because it's very hard to use Unreal Engine without a mouse, what you need to do is right click once you are selected in your map. You right click and you can use the W, A, S, and D keys to move around. Woo, all that, And you can use Q to go down and E to move up. So there's that. It's a really helpful tool. What you can also do is right click in your map, not click anything else, and just move your mouse around. That's your way of moving everything around. Now let's say I'm zoomed out. I'm zoomed way out here. And you want to zoom back in on one of these, objects, like at a really nice angle. You just click on that object, you double click on it, and it zooms you in. Or you can do it the manual way, which is not as fun. Ignore that. Why is this so slow? What in the world? Yeah. You can do the slow way, which is just moving in instead of double clicking on it. Now, let's say that my camera, I'm moving way too fast. Let's say that. If you want to slow it down, what I just said a second ago, you can click on your camera icon and you can move the speed down or up to make it go faster or slower. So that's slower, that's faster. You can even make it a higher value to make it go faster or a lower value to make it go slower. I'd say that this is good enough for me right now. 2.4. There's that. So yeah, you can select objects in your game. You double click on it, it'll bring you closer to it. There's that. And since this is a game that, since this is the first person template, it already gives you a map with a player that already has code. So if you want to see the player, it already has your first person player with all the extra code in it. These are blueprints. This is your blueprint tab. These are blueprints. This is the same thing as C++. This is using C++. And you have your whole library of endless options. Like, it just doesn't stop. You just have endless options. You can even make your own node, is what we call it. These are all nodes. Every single block that you see is called a node. So yeah, you can even make your own nodes. It's a whole process. You can just as much freedom as written code. Yeah, and Blueprints is Unreal Engine's own coding software. It's its own way of coding, just like a lot of other softwares have their own way of coding. That's their own way. Now you can even use written code, C++ written code, or any other language you want, but it's a hassle and it's really not worth it because Blueprints is just as good, if not better. Now, let's say for some reason your game looks like this. Looks all weird. This is called the wireframe mode. Or for some reason it looks like this. Now, I imagine you don't want it to be like this. This looks kind of weird and janky. What you want it to be on is lit. So just remember, if your game looks weird, it's probably because it's in a weird mode like this. So you put it on lit, which is the default mode where you can see everything as normal. Now you can also show, pressing the show option, and it can show you all the different screens you want it to show. I don't really ever mess with that. You don't really ever have to mess with that. What you can also do is you don't really mess with perspective either. What you could do is go here, and if you want to see your FPS, your frames per second, it'll show up right here. Now, for some reason, the Unreal Engine 5.2.1 has this weird bug now where it just caps at 60. I don't know why. I've been trying a lot of things, but for some reason, if it works on your end, on your computer, in a way to boost the FPS, which you can do to have more frames per second, is go to project settings, make sure you're on all settings, and go to search and type in FPS. So right now the default display rate is set to 60. I want to set mine to 144, which is the max that my computer can handle. Now you can go to frame rate lock, which is I think it just means how low it can go. So I put it to 60. It's set the maximum frame rate to set on power consumption. So yeah, this is if you're on a laptop and you don't have a power cord plugged in. That's how many frames you're only going to get. So I'm gonna put it to 60. Yeah, I'd also highly recommend bringing a power cord, your laptop power cord, because Unreal Engine, holy crap, it uses so much of your battery. My laptop dies within 30 minutes without a charger using Unreal Engine, or less sometimes. It just depends on how much I'm pushing it. It's a humongous software. So yeah, that's how you boost your frames. There's another way as well. Let's close out of that. Let's say you want you want to lower your graphics so that you can have more frames. What you can do is go to settings, engine scalability settings, and right now mine is set to epic. All my graphics are set to epic. So what you can do is lower it, or you can even make it custom and all that. Lowering it should increase it. For some reason it's not. It's being weird. It's probably a setting I have in here that's messed up somewhere. I might have just accidentally pressed it and it's weird. I'll figure it out. 60 is fine. It doesn't actually play like that once you are loading the game. This is just the outliner. This is just the map. But yeah, I'm gonna put it back to epic. So there's that. Now let's say you want to create a new folder in your content browser. So yeah, if you want to bring that up, you can either click on it manually with the content browser, or you can use the hotkey control space to open it and close it. Now your content browser is all the files that are in Unreal Engine. Everything that you want to add will go here. Everything that is already there by default is in your content browser. Everything is in your content browser. Now, if you want to look up that file, you can go to output log. No one really uses that much to look up a file. You can just go here and do it manually, which is easier and it's nicer. So yeah, if you want to create a new folder, you just right click on the empty space, click new folder. I'm going to call it map because I want to make a new map. This is already a map right now. This is your first person map. This is the default template map that comes with Unreal Engine first person template. So let's say I want to make a new map. I click on this and I go to File, New Level, and right now it gives you a bunch of options. It gives you Open World, which if you create a new empty project like I was talking about earlier that has nothing in it that we will be using, the default map that will be loaded will look like this. Now, usually you will just never use this. You'll just get rid of this. This is a good testing level, I guess, if you want to test objects or your assets. You can like delete squares as well if you want. I mean, I don't know why you would want to because we're never going to use this. But yeah, there's that. There's also an empty open world. Now, an empty open world map, let's just not create it actually. What an empty open world map is basically what we were talking about earlier on Tuesday in class, where we were mentioning, or I was talking about world partition, which is where you the game, like once you're playing a video game, the game will only load a certain part of the map so that it can boost the performance of whatever the computer that a person's playing on. It just gives a person better performance when you have world partition enabled, and so an empty open world map has nothing in the map except world partition enabled. Now, an empty level has absolutely nothing in it. It doesn't have world partition enabled. There's nothing in it at all. Now, a basic level, what that will look like, let's just call it basic level. It's very generic, but whatever. It'll load it, and this is what it looks like. It has basic stuff in it. There's no code. There is just, you have your volumetric cloud, you have your skylight, you have your sky atmosphere, and you have your directional light. And then you have your landscape, of course, or your floor. So, what the skylight looks like, if you get rid of it, it'll just make the ground or the floor darker. So this lightens up your map. Your map and your level, by the way, are the same exact thing. There's no difference between the terms map and level. They are the same thing. Yeah, so whenever I say that, it just means one or the other. It's the same thing. Now, your sky atmosphere, what that looks like if you get rid of it, is this. It makes it a bit darker. Like you still have a bright map. You can still see what you're doing, but it gets rid of the atmosphere. So you definitely want that in your level if you're making a 3D game. We're making a 2D game, so, I mean, it's different. But, I mean, a 2D game and a 3D game all has this stuff. So, and then you have your volumetric cloud. Now, if you get rid of that, it gets rid of your clouds. And then you have your your directional light. If you get rid of that, it gets rid of all the light in your map or your level, so you can't see anything. So you definitely want, as default, a directional light, and you'll want your sky atmosphere. So let's say, for example, when we eventually do make a 3D video game, let's start from an empty level, because that's what we will be doing, is starting from an empty level. Let's just name this test. So it'll save that, and this should hopefully go to your maps. Now, that was my bad. It automatically went to the content folder. If you want it to automatically go save to your maps folder, you can click on this, click on that, and once you press save, you name it, and you can click on this, and now it'll automatically save your new level that you created into the maps folder. But it's fine with how it is right now. Now, let's say you want to make, let me just load the other one I just created. Let's say you want to make your basic level. Okay, my bad. you want to make your basic level look exactly the same as your empty level. Now, this is good to know. This is good to know how to do this. So what you do to make this level look the same as this level is, once you're in the map, you need to go to selection mode, landscape. Now it'll look like this. You want to actually create your floor so that your player can walk on it. So how you do that, you can just go to the scale value, and we want to make a smaller level floor. We don't want to make a 100 by 100 grid. That's like ginormous. It's like a freaking open world game right there. You just want to put it at let's say like 4. It's relatively small. And let's press save, and then you don't really need to add a material to your floor. It can be how it is right now, and you just press create. And now you have your floor. You can't see it because it's so dark. That's because we don't have our light in it. So we save it. Now we can see all our floors. You go to this button right here. This is where we add, we can quickly add stuff to our project. So what we need to do is go under visual elements and go to sky atmosphere. Actually, my bad. Let's do where is it? Exponential height fog. Let's start with that. Go to the details section, and let's say we want our exponential height fog to be in the exact center of our map. So what we can do is go to our location in our details tab and make everything go back down to 0. I didn't make that 0 right there. Now let's say I want that to be a bit above the ground, not inside the ground. I want it to be above it. So now there's that. And then let's say we want to add, let's say sky atmosphere. Put that at 0. Put that at 0. Put that above that. And now we want to add our light so we can actually see what the heck we're doing. So let's do a directional light. Now we can see our map. Put that in the center, put it above, and then lastly, let's just add our sky atmosphere. So we'll go here, visual elements, sky atmosphere. Oh, my bad. I mean our clouds, Elementary cloud. Now we can see our clouds. Looks so pretty. Yeah. All right. Now we have this. Now look, this is the exact same thing as a basic level. So we can just move this down, I guess. Yeah, if you want to select multiple objects as well, you can right click on it, press shift, right click on the other objects, and then you can move all that around instead of just moving one around. Now let's say you have your object in a weird spot and you don't like that and you want to go back to where it was originally, press Control Z. Or want to go forward, Control Shift Z. But yeah, this is the exact same thing as your basic level, except this is more squares for some reason. I don't know how they did that, but it's the same thing. Has all your visual elements that you need. Now, once we're in here, something good to know is that let's say we make a blueprint folder. This is where we have all our, scripts or our code. And let's say we want to add a new object. Let's make it an actor blueprint, and we'll just call it, I don't know, test. I'll just keep naming everything test. Right now you can't see anything. There's nothing really in here. There's no object. So right now we'll just add a cube so we can actually see what the heck we're doing. So let's scale it down a bit. Save it. Then we can add it into our level. Now we have a simple cube. Now we can even add blueprints to it and code it if we want, but we're not going to do that right now. Right now we're just going to focus on scaling it, rotating it, and moving it around. So in Unreal Engine, we can use the W, the E, and the R keys. The W key is to move your object around, and the E key is to rotate your object around. And the R key is to scale it on all the axes. Now, if you want to scale it all together, instead of just doing it manually one side by one side, like you won't get an even scale. Let's say you want to get the whole object to be scaled. You just go in the middle right here and you just click on it and drag it in or out, which will make it smaller or bigger. Now let's say you see how this is just like clipping, like it's not as smooth. It's just I don't know what good angle to show you. See when it's like clipping into a new location. It's not really smooth. It's just dot 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 like that. If you want to fix that and make it look a bit nicer and have a more, you know, a better position, more precision to your scale, you can click on this, enable or disable snapping objects to a scale grid. You disable that, and now, watch that. Now, look how smooth that is. You can make your object a lot more precise with how much you scaled it or not. Now, if I enable that, it looks like this. So right now, it's scaling to 0.25%. If I put it back to 1, it makes it even less. If I make it less, it makes it smoother. Let's put it back to 2.5. So that is just for scaling it. Let's say you want to, when we're rotating it, it has the same problem. It's not as precise. It's a little bit glitchy looking. You want to fix that, you just click on this. Enables or disables snapping objects to a rotation grid. Disable that, and now look how smooth it is. You can move this around very freely, very precisely. It looks a lot better. Then let's say press the W key. You want to move it around, but it's also having the same problem. So you just press this, and now look how much more smooth it moves around in your map. There you go. That's all I really need to know for the map options. This is your wireframe. Oh, I know it's not. Oh, what the heck is this? Oh, I never use that actually. It looks like your wireframe, which is funny. Wireframe looks very similar. Whatever. So yeah, that's all I really need to know for this section. Now we have all these different things. We're not going to go into any of this right now, but we just used the landscape option earlier, which is how we created our floor. Pretty much whenever you're making a game, you'll pretty much just stay in the selection mode all throughout. And yeah, I mean, you'll if you're more of a level designer, you'll use a landscape tool. If you're making a 3D game, if you're making a 2D game, you'll probably just stay in the selection mode because you're more just moving images around. A 2D game is really just images, or is what people call sprites. Images are called sprites in the game development field, just like teams are called departments. So we also have our outliner. Our outliner is used to locate whatever is in our map. So our outliner holds everything or has everything that is in our map. So we have our object that we just created, our object, we have our volumetric cloud, we have our sky atmosphere, our landscape, which is our floor, our everything else. We have everything that we need in there. Now let's say I want to add this in. Bam, it shows up as test 2. Add another one. See? Once you add something into the project, it will show up on the outline, and you can double click on it, zoom in, all that. So there's that. And the detail section. So let's say you want to mess around with that object or with that file that you selected. These are all files. You select your file or your object, or objects and assets are very similar. You click on this and you can go to your detail section. So right now you can see our location of our object. So you see when I move this around, it will move the X axis. When I move it on this, it'll move on the Y axis, and this on the Z axis. And obviously if I move it around, it moves the rotation and all that. And if I scale it, it moves around with all the scale values. Yeah, there's all that. You don't really need to mess around with any of this. I'll talk about some of this later if we need. Yeah, there's your details section. We also have our world settings. Our world settings. Oh, let's say you want to add in your player to your game. Now, your player needs to have a game mode override enabled. Right now, as for default, we have nothing selected. So you need to make a new game mode override. And that will be under your blueprints tab because your game mode override is considered a blueprint. So you right click, blueprint class, game mode base. And I'm just going to name this my game mode. Control S to save, or save here, or go to file and save all. A lot of ways to save. Make sure that becomes a habit because you need to save stuff all the time. So yeah, now you have your game mode override. So you can go to my game mode, which is the one I just made. And now let's say your player's in here in your map. Now you can actually control your player if you have everything set up correctly. If you didn't have this enabled, you could not move your player. You cannot actually possess your player and move him around. That's why you need to have a game mode selected. That's all we need to know right now, cover right now. But yeah, that is the basics of Unreal Engine. A lot. It's a lot, I know. There's a lot more. There's a whole lot more, but that is the basic. And, you know, it's also a good thing to know that not to stress about this stuff. It's meant to have fun. Meant to have fun. You obviously don't have to do all this. Like, there's all these departments or teams for a reason. Like, obviously you don't want to do every single team. I mean, I enjoy it, but you probably wouldn't. So that's why we have all those teams for a reason, so that you can focus on one certain aspect of game design or game development. So yeah, so you don't have to do a whole lot and be all like scared about knowing everything. You don't have to. But everything I taught you today in this video, you will probably need to know just to use Unreal Engine in general. That is the basics. That's also to press play as well, obviously. So yeah, since we used a starter pack, a starter map, I don't know where it went. Whatever. It gave us a map, but if you want to actually play in your map, you just press the play button, and that's how you play. We have nothing set up, so it just looks like this. But yeah, that's how you play your game. Now, if you want, there's like one more thing, and then we're done with the video. My bad. If you click on this, you can simulate your game, or make it a standalone game. These are very similar. Usually you just want to press standalone game, and that simulates your game as if it is an actual packaged game. And yeah, that's it. We'll talk about revision control later. Revision control, that is where we as a group can all use Unreal Engine in the same project. Yeah, we'll talk about that. It's very important to know how to use this. I'll teach you guys about it. I'll probably make another video. And yeah, that would be it. Thank you.